In the heart of Nashville, where dreams are made and broken, not every country star found a welcome home. Some rose to fame only to be cast aside, blacklisted by an industry that turned its back when scandal and controversy came calling. These are the artists whose voices shook the charts, yet whose choices, or enemies, nearly erased them from country history. Today, we uncover how Country Singers Nashville Tried to Blacklist Forever. At the height of their fame in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Dixie Chicks were one of the most successful acts in country music history. With hits like Wide Open Spaces and Goodbye Earl, they dominated charts, won Grammy Awards, and filled arenas. Their unique blend of traditional country roots and pop appeal made them household names. Nashville embraced them as shining stars, and they seemed unstoppable. But in March 2003, everything changed almost overnight. During a concert in London, lead singer Natalie Maines made a statement that would ignite one of the most infamous scandals in country music. Just days before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, she told the crowd that the Dixie Chicks were ashamed President George W. Bush was from Texas. The remark, though brief, spread like wildfire across American media. Nashville, steeped in patriotism and traditional values, reacted with fury. Almost instantly, the Dixie Chicks were blacklisted. Country radio stations pulled their music from playlists, sometimes publicly destroying their CDs. Fans who once screamed their names now boycotted their concerts, and the group received death threats. Nashville insiders and executives who once celebrated them turned their backs, fearing the backlash of supporting artists seen as unpatriotic. The fallout was devastating. Their sales plummeted, and they were effectively erased from mainstream country radio. Yet instead of retreating, the Dixie Chicks doubled down. In 2006, they released Taking the Long Way, an album that defiantly addressed the controversy. The record earned them 5 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, but it didn't win them back Nashville. The blacklist remained. Over time, however, history began to shift. Younger audiences embraced their boldness, viewing them as pioneers who challenged the industry's silence on politics. In 2020, they dropped Dixie from their name, rebranding as the Chicks and continuing their career with new music. Still, the shadow of that Nashville blacklist lingers. What happened to them serves as one of the clearest examples of how quickly an artist can go from beloved to banished in the world of country music. Hank Williams Jr., the son of country legend Hank Williams, grew up under the heavy weight of a name that defined an entire genre. In the 1970s and 1980s, he carved out his own rebellious image, blending Southern rock with outlaw country, delivering hits like Family Tradition and All My Rowdy Friends Are Coming Over Tonight. His larger-than-life persona and unapologetic style made him a fan favorite. But Hank Jr. was never one to hold back his opinions, and that defiance eventually put him at odds with Nashville's establishment. While his career soared, controversies followed him like a shadow. Known for his hard-living lifestyle and fiery personality, Hank Jr. often clashed with record executives who tried to rein him in. Nashville's power brokers viewed him as unpredictable, and his outspoken views on politics only made things worse. The turning point came in 2011, when he compared President Barack Obama playing golf with House Speaker John Boehner to Hitler playing golf with Netanyahu during a Fox News interview. The backlash was immediate and brutal. ESPN, which had used his anthem All My Rowdy Friends as the Monday Night Football theme for decades, cut ties with him. Country radio distanced itself, and many in Nashville declared him too toxic to support. Suddenly, the same man who had been a stadium-filling superstar was being pushed to the margins of the industry. Hank Jr. didn't apologize. Instead, he doubled down, releasing songs that openly attacked his critics and the media. For some fans, this cemented his status as a defiant outlaw who refused to be silenced. But for Nashville, it was confirmation that he didn't fit their polished, corporate image of modern country music. He was, in their eyes, blacklisted. Even so, Hank Williams Jr. never disappeared entirely. His loyal fan base stuck with him, and he remained a draw on the touring circuit. Eventually, time softened the scandal, and Nashville began to cautiously acknowledge his contributions. In 2020, nearly a decade after the controversy, Hank Jr. was finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, an overdue recognition of his impact, despite years of being treated as an outcast. His story proves that while Nashville can blacklist an artist, true legends have a way of surviving. Hank Jr. may never have fit the mold, but he carved his own place in history, loud, rebellious, and impossible to erase. In the mid-1990s, Mindy McCready was one of Nashville's brightest rising stars. With her breakout album 10,000 Angels, 1996, she stormed onto the charts, selling millions of copies and earning critical acclaim. Her powerful voice and striking presence positioned her as one of the leading women of country music, rivaling the likes of Faith Hill and Shania Twain. At just 21, McCready was living the dream many only imagined. But behind the glittering success lay personal demons that would unravel her career and life. Almost as quickly as she rose, her career began to collapse under the weight of scandal. McCready's turbulent personal relationships became tabloid fodder, overshadowing her music. A high-profile, abusive relationship with actor Roger Clemens, reportedly beginning when she was a teenager, drew unwanted attention. Then came a series of arrests for drug possession, identity fraud, and probation violations. Nashville's reputation-conscious industry turned away, unwilling to associate with the chaos that followed her every move. Her struggle with addiction further fueled the decline. Multiple stints in rehab made headlines, as did her suicide attempts, which painted a tragic picture of a star lost in despair. Nashville, known for celebrating resilience, offered little support. Instead, her name became synonymous with scandal rather than talent. Country radio stopped playing her songs, record deals evaporated, and McCready became a cautionary tale of fame's darker side. Despite it all, she fought to revive her career. In 2010, she appeared on VH1's Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, hoping to confront her addictions publicly. That same year, she released I'm Still Here, a defiant statement that she was trying to reclaim her place in music. Yet Nashville had already closed its doors. The blacklist wasn't official, but it was clear. McCready was no longer welcome. Her tragic end came in 2013, when at the age of 37, she died by suicide at her home in Arkansas. It was a devastating conclusion to a story that began with so much promise. To many, her downfall highlighted Nashville's unforgiving nature, where one mistake, or a series of them, can permanently erase even the most talented voices. Mindy McCready remains a haunting figure in country music history. She was an artist with immense potential, silenced not just by personal demons, but also by an industry that turned its back when she needed help the most. Her story is one of talent, scandal, and heartbreak, a reminder of how fragile fame can be in Nashville's unforgiving spotlight. When Kacey Musgraves first stepped into the Nashville spotlight, she was anything but typical. Her 2013 debut album, Same Trailer, Different Park, won her a Grammy and praise from critics for its bold storytelling, sharp wit, and refusal to conform to country music cliches. Songs like Follow Your Arrow celebrated individuality and love in all forms, directly challenging the conservative traditions that had long defined mainstream country. Nashville had a new star on its hands, but one that would soon clash with the industry's unwritten rules. Unlike many peers who stuck to safe themes of heartbreak, patriotism, and small-town life, Musgraves dared to sing about marijuana, same-sex relationships, and women breaking free from restrictive roles. These topics, though celebrated by progressive audiences, made executives and radio programmers nervous. The gatekeepers of country radio, long considered the key to success in Nashville, gave her minimal airplay. While her albums won awards and critical acclaim, she was effectively blacklisted from the mainstream country soundscape. The tension between Musgraves and Nashville wasn't just about lyrics. She openly criticized the industry's sexism, questioning why women struggled to get equal representation on the radio. Her unapologetic stance against the so-called bro country wave of beer, trucks, and tailgate songs further alienated her from Nashville's commercial machine. Instead of softening her image, she leaned harder into her artistry, evolving her sound toward pop and psychedelic influences with her groundbreaking album Golden Hour, 2018. Ironically, while Nashville sidelined her, the world celebrated her. Golden Hour won the Grammy for Album of the Year, a rare feat for a country artist and a direct slap in the face to the Nashville system that had long resisted her. Yet, even with the international recognition, country radio and many industry insiders continued to keep her at arm's length. Kacey Musgraves' story isn't one of personal scandal, but of ideological rebellion. She didn't get caught in controversy or destructive behavior. She simply refused to play by Nashville's rigid rules. For that, she was, and in many ways still is, treated like an outsider in her own genre. But her blacklist status has only made her more iconic, cementing her as a voice for authenticity, inclusivity, and progress within country music. Her journey proves that sometimes being blacklisted by Nashville doesn't destroy a career. It can liberate it. Kacey Musgraves may never fully fit into the mold Nashville tried to force on her, but that's exactly why she's become one of the most influential voices of her generation. Before he became a cornerstone of country music, Merle Haggard's journey was anything but smooth. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Nashville viewed him not as a future legend, but as a dangerous outsider. His troubled youth was no secret. Raised in poverty in California after his father's death, Haggard fell into crime at a young age. By his early 20s, he had already served time in San Quentin prison for burglary. To Nashville's polished executives, he wasn't the image they wanted representing the genre. They saw him as damaged goods. When Haggard first tried to break into the country scene, his prison record and rough edges were red flags. Nashville, in that era, preferred clean-cut performers who could appeal to family audiences. Stars like Jim Reeves and Patsy Cline represented the Nashville sound, a smoother, pop-influenced style designed to expand country's commercial reach. Haggard, with his gritty voice and songs steeped in hard living, was the opposite of what they wanted. Whispers circulated that he'd never be fully accepted because of his criminal past. Yet Haggard's authenticity couldn't be ignored. His songs weren't manufactured tales. They were lived experiences. Tracks like Branded Man, which openly dealt with life after prison, resonated with working-class listeners who saw themselves in his struggles. Still, radio programmers and industry insiders hesitated. For a time, he was effectively blacklisted, sidelined as too risky, too raw, and too far removed from the Nashville ideal. The turning point came when Haggard embraced the outlaw spirit that would later reshape country music. Rather than conform to Nashville's standards, he doubled down on his identity. With songs like Mama Tried and Okie from Muskogee, he crafted an image of defiance that attracted a massive following. The very qualities that once made him a liability, his criminal record, his rough background, his refusal to sugarcoat life, turned him into a cultural voice for a generation tired of polished artifice. By the 1970s, Nashville could no longer ignore him. Haggard became one of the most decorated artists in country music, earning multiple awards, chart-topping hits, and eventually induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Ironically, the man they once shunned became a symbol of the genre's honesty and depth. Merle Haggard's early blacklist was proof that Nashville often struggles to embrace authenticity when it doesn't fit the commercial mold. But his ultimate triumph showed that the power of truth in music can outlast even the industry's harshest rejections. From convict to country legend, his story remains one of the most remarkable turnarounds in music history. Before he became one of the most beloved figures in American music, Willie Nelson spent years on the margins, fighting against a Nashville system that didn't know what to do with him. In the 1960s, Nelson was a gifted songwriter, penning classics like Crazy for Patsy Cline and Nightlife for Ray Price. But as a performer, he struggled. His laid-back, conversational singing style and unconventional appearance clashed with the slick, Nashville sound dominating radio. Executives wanted polished crooners in suits. Willie, with his scruffy beard, long hair, and raw delivery, didn't fit the mold. Time after time, record labels tried to reshape him, pushing orchestrated arrangements and smooth productions onto his songs. The results felt hollow, and Nelson's albums barely made a dent in the charts. Within the Nashville establishment, he was quietly dismissed, blacklisted not through scandal, but through indifference. Radio programmers ignored him, and industry insiders wrote him off as a failed artist who would never break through. By the early 1970s, Nelson was exhausted. He even considered quitting music altogether, retreating to his farm in Texas. But instead of surrendering, he made a radical decision. He would stop chasing Nashville's approval and create music his own way. Relocating to Austin, he immersed himself in the city's free-spirited culture, blending country, rock, and folk influences. There, Willie's outlaw image, bandana, long hair, and unfiltered honesty found an audience that Nashville had overlooked. The gamble paid off. Albums like Red-Headed Stranger, 1975, redefined what country music could sound like. Stripped down, haunting, and utterly authentic. Nashville couldn't ignore him any longer. Willie Nelson, once dismissed as a misfit, became one of the architects of the outlaw country movement alongside Waylon Jennings. Together, they showed that success didn't have to come from fitting into the system. It could come from breaking away from it. Ironically, the man Nashville once blacklisted went on to become one of the most enduring icons in the genre's history. With his distinctive voice, fearless independence, and catalog of timeless songs, Willie Nelson not only survived but thrived, winning Grammys, headlining festivals, and earning respect from fans across generations. His story is a powerful reminder that being cast out by Nashville doesn't always end a career. For some like Willie, it can spark a reinvention that changes country music forever. What began as rejection became the foundation of a legend. In an era when country music was dominated by radio-friendly hits and polished production, Sturgill Simpson emerged as a defiant outsider. From the beginning, he rejected the formulaic sound pushed by Nashville's industry machine. His 2014 breakthrough album, Metamodern Sounds in Country Music, stunned critics with psychedelic influences, existential lyrics, and a fearless blend of tradition and innovation. To fans craving authenticity, Simpson was a breath of fresh air. To Nashville's power brokers, he was a threat. Unlike many artists who quietly played the game to secure radio spins, Simpson openly mocked the system. He criticized major labels, country radio, and even the Country Music Association, CMA, for promoting a narrow, commercialized version of the genre. His outspokenness came to a head in 2017, when after the tragic Las Vegas mass shooting at a country festival, Simpson busked outside the CMA Awards in protest, playing for fans on the street instead of attending the show. He accused the industry of ignoring important issues and prioritizing profit over art. Nashville insiders didn't take kindly to the public rebuke. While Simpson won a Grammy for A Sailor's Guide to Earth in 2017, he remained largely absent from country radio. Programmers refused to play his music, labeling it too weird or too political. In many ways, Nashville blacklisted him not with an official ban, but through a cold silence, keeping his songs off the airwaves and leaving him outside the mainstream conversation. Yet the blacklist only fueled his cult following. Simpson's willingness to experiment, incorporating rock, soul, and even bluegrass into his albums, earned him critical acclaim and a fiercely loyal fan base. His 2019 album Sound and Fury, complete with an anime film on Netflix, proved he was uninterested in Nashville's approval. He wanted to push boundaries, not chase chart positions. For traditionalists, his rebellious stance made him an outlaw in the truest sense. For Nashville, it was reason enough to keep him at arm's length. But Simpson has never seemed to care. By walking away from the system, he gained something far more valuable: independence. Sturgill Simpson's story highlights a modern form of blacklisting in country music. It's not always scandal or personal misconduct that gets an artist shut out. It's refusing to conform. Nashville may not embrace him, but Simpson has carved his own path, redefining what it means to be a country artist in the 21st century. Johnny Paycheck's story is one of country music's most turbulent cautionary tales. Born Donald Eugene Lytle, he clawed his way into Nashville as a journeyman musician before hitting it big in the 1970s with his outlaw persona and gritty anthem, "Take This Job and Shove It." That song became a working-class rallying cry, shooting to the top of the charts in 1977 and cementing Paycheck as a star. For a moment, he stood shoulder to shoulder with outlaw icons like Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. But while his music struck a chord with millions, his self-destructive lifestyle and violent tendencies soon overshadowed his talent. Paycheck's career began unraveling almost as quickly as it had peaked. His battles with alcohol and drugs became legendary, and his erratic behavior made him nearly impossible to manage. He missed shows, clashed with promoters, and developed a reputation for being unreliable. In an industry that prized professionalism, even among its rebels, Nashville insiders began to distance themselves. The final blow came in 1985, when Paycheck was involved in a barroom altercation in Hillsboro, Ohio. During the fight, he pulled out a gun and shot a man in the head. Though the victim survived, Paycheck was convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to prison. The scandal sent shockwaves through the country community. Radio stations dropped his music, labels cut ties, and Nashville's doors slammed shut. For many, he had crossed a line that couldn't be forgiven. Paycheck served nearly 2 years behind bars before receiving a pardon from the governor of Ohio. When he emerged, he tried to stage a comeback, releasing new music and performing sporadically. But the Nashville blacklist proved permanent. Once a chart-topping star, he was now a pariah, relegated to small clubs and struggling to rebuild what was lost. Despite his fall, Paycheck's influence never fully disappeared. His rebellious spirit embodied the outlaw ethos, and his songs still resonate with fans of hard-edged country. But his legacy remains complicated. A man of immense talent, undone by violence, addiction, and poor choices. Nashville may have tried to erase him, but his story serves as a stark reminder of how quickly stardom can implode. Johnny Paycheck died in 2003 at the age of 64, his final years marked by poor health and financial struggle. Though blacklisted by Nashville, his place in country history is undeniable. He will forever be remembered as both a voice of the working class and a tragic figure who destroyed his own chance at lasting glory. Few artists divided Nashville quite like Toby Keith. In the 1990s, he burst onto the scene with hits like Should Have Been a Cowboy, which became one of the most played country songs of the decade. His booming voice, larger-than-life personality, and blue-collar image earned him legions of fans. But by the early 2000s, Keith's brash style and political songs sparked fierce backlash, creating tensions that would leave him on the edge of Nashville's good graces. The breaking point came after the September 11 attacks. Keith released Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, The Angry American, in 2002, a fiery patriotic anthem that captured the anger of many Americans. The song soared in popularity, but its aggressive lyrics, particularly the infamous line about putting a boot in someone's backside, polarized audiences. While some fans saw him as a proud defender of America, critics accused him of exploiting tragedy and promoting a jingoistic, oversimplified vision of patriotism. The feud with fellow country star Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks only intensified matters. Maines called his song ignorant, and Keith responded by mocking her at concerts, projecting doctored images of her alongside Saddam Hussein. The public spat drew widespread media attention and cast both artists as lightning rods in the culture wars. For Nashville, which preferred to keep its artists appealing across political divides, Keith's antics were toxic. Behind the scenes, his relationship with the industry grew strained. Keith often criticized record labels and the corporate control of country music, eventually leaving major labels to start his own, Showdog Nashville, in 2005. By going independent, he proved he didn't need the Nashville machine to succeed. But his refusal to play by their rules, combined with the controversies, cemented his status as an outsider. Radio support waned, award shows largely ignored him, and Nashville insiders whispered that he had blacklisted himself. Yet despite the pushback, Toby Keith thrived on his own terms. He built a business empire with his music, touring, and even a chain of restaurants. His independence made him one of the wealthiest and most successful country stars of his era. For fans, he remained a hero of unapologetic patriotism and self-reliance. For Nashville, he was a headache, too unpredictable, too controversial, and impossible to control. In the end, Keith's story illustrates a different kind of blacklist. It wasn't about being silenced or erased. It was about choosing to step outside the system and daring Nashville to stop him. While they may have tried, Toby Keith proved he didn't need their approval to become a legend. As the grandson of Hank Williams and the son of Hank Williams Jr., Shelton Hank Williams III, better known as Hank III, was born into one of the most legendary bloodlines in country music. But rather than embrace Nashville's traditional expectations, he made it his mission to tear them apart. From the beginning, Hank III clashed with the industry's demand for polished, radio-friendly songs. His raw blend of honky-tonk, punk rock, and heavy metal didn't just push boundaries, it obliterated them. When Curb Records first signed him in the late 1990s, Nashville executives hoped his family name would translate into mainstream success. But they quickly discovered that Hank III wasn't interested in being a clone of his grandfather or father. Instead, he filled his shows with thrashing punk sets, screeching metal riffs, and profanity-laced rants against the very system he was supposed to represent. Fans adored his authenticity, but for Nashville insiders, it was a nightmare. His open disdain for the industry earned him a reputation as one of Nashville's most vocal critics. He accused the town of destroying real country music and frequently referred to the business as a soulless machine more interested in selling beer and trucks than supporting artistry. In interviews and on stage, Hank III would mock the slick bro country stars who dominated radio, calling them puppets of corporate Nashville. Curb Records eventually shelved his projects, leading to a bitter legal battle. Hank III accused the label of holding his career hostage, releasing albums without his consent and stifling his creativity. By the mid-2000s, he had severed ties with mainstream Nashville completely, setting up his own label and going fully independent. This act of rebellion effectively blacklisted him from country radio and award shows, but it also gave him the freedom he craved. Despite the industry's cold shoulder, Hank III built a fiercely loyal cult following. His marathon live shows often stretched past 3 hours, blending traditional country sets with full-blown punk and metal performances. Fans who felt abandoned by Nashville's mainstream found solace in his uncompromising authenticity. To them, Hank III wasn't just another Williams. He was a renegade carrying the outlaw spirit into a new era. Today, Hank III remains one of the most extreme examples of Nashville's blacklist. He wasn't cast out because of scandal or personal failure. He was cast out because he refused to play the game. By rejecting the system, he ensured he would never be part of the polished machine, but he also preserved the raw, unfiltered edge that his fans treasure. Hank III's legacy is proof that sometimes the blacklist is a badge of honor. For him, being unwanted by Nashville wasn't the end of a career. It was the beginning of complete artistic freedom. When Gretchen Wilson exploded onto the country scene in 2004 with her smash hit Redneck Woman, she was hailed as the voice of working-class women everywhere. The song rocketed to #1, won her a Grammy, and established her as a force in an industry long dominated by polished, radio-friendly stars. For a time, Wilson seemed unstoppable, bringing a raw, unapologetic energy that Nashville couldn't ignore. Yet behind the success, cracks were forming. Cracks that would eventually see her sidelined by the very industry that once celebrated her. Wilson's rise was meteoric, but her downfall was just as swift. After her first album sold millions, expectations were sky high. But follow-up releases failed to capture the same magic, and critics began to write her off as a one-hit wonder. Instead of reshaping her image to fit Nashville's evolving landscape, Wilson stayed true to her rowdy, blue-collar persona. While this authenticity resonated with fans, it made her less marketable to executives who preferred the polished pop country image embodied by stars like Carrie Underwood and Taylor Swift. Then came the scandals. Wilson developed a reputation for being difficult to work with. Stories circulated of clashes with label executives, canceled concerts, and unprofessional behavior. In 2008, she publicly feuded with record labels over creative control, further straining her relationship with Nashville insiders. Her rebellious streak, once a strength, now branded her as a liability. Her legal troubles added fuel to the fire. In 2018, Wilson was arrested at Bradley International Airport in Connecticut after causing a disturbance on a flight. The incident made headlines and reinforced the perception that she was unpredictable and volatile. For an industry obsessed with image, it was the final confirmation that Gretchen Wilson was no longer a safe bet. By the late 2010s, Nashville had effectively blacklisted her. Radio stations rarely played her music, award shows no longer extended invitations, and record labels kept their distance. The woman who once topped charts and inspired a generation of fans was now relegated to county fairs and small venues, struggling to regain her former glory. Still, Wilson remains a symbol of defiance. Her early success proved that authentic, unpolished country could resonate with millions. And while Nashville may have turned its back, fans who loved Redneck Woman never forgot her. To this day, she embodies the risks of standing too far outside the industry's comfort zone. Gretchen Wilson's story is a reminder of how quickly Nashville can embrace and then abandon a star. For all her talent and authenticity, her clashes with the system ensured she would never be welcomed back into the fold. Long before he became an icon of outlaw country, Waylon Jennings was a thorn in Nashville's side. In the 1960s, when the Nashville sound ruled the airwaves with smooth strings, background choruses, and carefully controlled production, Jennings bristled against the system. He wanted freedom, to record with his own band, to choose his own songs, and to craft music that reflected his gritty, independent spirit. For Nashville's powerful producers and executives, this refusal to conform made him a problem. Early in his career, Jennings was signed to RCA under the legendary producer Chet Atkins. While Atkins helped polish country into a more commercially viable product, Jennings found the process stifling. He hated the artificial arrangements that stripped away the rawness of his sound. Behind the scenes, he pushed back, demanding more control, but RCA resisted. The clashes grew so tense that insiders began to treat him as an outcast, a talented singer who simply wouldn't play by the rules. In effect, Nashville blacklisted him, not officially, but through constant resistance to his vision. Instead of surrendering, Jennings leaned into his rebellion. By the early 1970s, he finally won creative control of his music, and what followed changed country forever. Albums like Honky Tonk Heroes, 1973, and Dreaming My Dreams, 1975, gave birth to the outlaw country movement, a raw, unapologetic sound that celebrated freedom over conformity. Alongside Willie Nelson, Jennings proved that artists could thrive outside the Nashville machine. But his battles with the industry didn't end there. Jennings lived hard, developing a reputation for excess. His drug use, volatile behavior, and open disdain for authority only deepened his outsider image. At one point, his cocaine addiction nearly consumed his career, reinforcing Nashville's view of him as unreliable and dangerous. Yet even as the industry turned away, fans flocked to his music, seeing him as a truth-teller who embodied the rebellious spirit they craved. Ironically, the very qualities that got him blacklisted eventually made him a legend. Jennings won Grammy Awards, filled arenas, and became a central figure in country's cultural shift. His gravelly voice and uncompromising style helped redefine the genre, leaving a legacy that Nashville was forced to acknowledge, no matter how much they once resisted him. Waylon Jennings' story is proof that blacklisting doesn't always end careers. It can ignite revolutions. By refusing to bend to Nashville's rules, he helped create one of the most important movements in country music history. In the end, the man they tried to sideline became one of the genre's most enduring icons.